What's up, guys? Been a long time. This is what if Issei was a perfected Red Dragon Emperor. Well, yeah, just the perfect Red Dragon Emperor. Now, this would start when he was younger. He would be born with the ability to obtain his gear, even if he never had a moment in life where he was worried. Over the years, he figured out that he had it, and even at the age of 5, he had unlocked it. At the age of 10, he was using it every single day. At the age of 12, he was probably one of the strongest beings alive. At least top 20. I'm not going to say top 10 since he was probably number 20. He was nowhere near his peak, but he was also far stronger than most. Though this would only make him somewhat off the radar. This would keep him on most strong characters' radars. Like, Ddraig knew of a creature strong enough to challenge him in the human world, but he wasn't sure who it was. Most characters couldn't even touch him, so who could this be? Well, that's what he was wondering. Over the years, he would start looking for Issei. When Issei turned about 17, he was walking around, and actually, because he'd been lonely most of his life and never got a girlfriend, still a pervert, he would actually meet this girl, Yuma Amano, and he would try to go out with her. What he didn't expect is that she is a fallen angel, and fallen angels wouldn't really be a good choice since she would try to kill him. Now, he didn't know she would try to kill him until she tried killing him. Now, this would make it where it's very difficult for Issei to do almost anything by himself. Especially the day after, he couldn't trust what happened. He talked to Ddraig, and you might wonder, how would he die? Well, he wouldn't, actually, in this version. Well, he just wouldn't go down as easy. When she attacks him, he catches it with the boosting gear on. He can almost go into Balance Breaker at this point, and he's already in the third variation of it. He looks like this at this point. He looks at her dead in the eyes and saying, "So Fallen, was expecting better, but I kind of figured you'd be a Fallen." As he strengthens up his body and looks her dead in the eyes, you hear boost, boost, boost. As every time she went to throw more spears, it did nothing. You hear Ddraig clapping as he says, looks like I have to intervene. As he would throw a spear as hard as he could, for Issei only to catch it and throw it back, very much putting an injury on Ddraig's arm. As Ddraig looked at Issei, he was enraged. He flew forward with the spear drawn, only for Middled and Calwarner to get attack Issei right next to him, both of them stabbing him in the legs, for Ddraig to stab Issei in the chest. As blood started gushing out, you would see all four of them put a spear together and send it through Issei's chest, one after the other, since one could not truly pull clean through him, but they could all get a little bit further. That straight up got him to the ground. As Issei hit the floor, he was laid out completely, because metal is a great conductor. Now, as Issei looked up, he said, "I don't want to die like this." Didn't want to have to use this. As he sees them run away altogether, he pulls out the card and says, "I summon you, demon," putting his magic into it, even if not. Now, he didn't need to put magic into it, but he did it to basically show who he was. As Rias herself would appear with her full peerage behind her, saying, "Hello, Issei." As he said, "Please, spare me." As he hit the floor, landing in a puddle of his own blood, Rias taking 8 pawn pieces and putting them right up on Issei's chest. Meaning that, yeah, she really revived him in this version. Issei popping his neck. He woke up that morning, he said, I can't trust that girl Fallen or anything. I only trust Rias a little bit, and even then I don't fully trust her. But it's better than nothing. So, you may be wondering, why would this happen? How would he lose? He had Balance Breaker. Well, it was less lose, more... They just overwhelmed him with numbers. Well, as Issei would be living his normal life, he would figure something out. Well, he was quite stronger than most Rias' people. Even though the Red Dragon Emperor is always very strong, he was a mere human, going up against, well, 4 Fallens. And then Freed hit him with that bullet, so he wasn't exactly having an even 1-to-1. But Issei knew he would have to train more. So he called up Ddraig. Ddraig sang, "State your wish, partner. I wish to become the strongest Red Dragon Emperor to ever exist. Fine, then train by my side." And every night Issei would train. After about 3 days, they would go save Asya, at Issei's request. With Asya now saved, they would still have to revive her. When they did and made her a bishop, Issei was ecstatic. He had fought, got her stuff back for her, and put them on her fingers, though he was quite badly injured in the process. Because, of course, light spears do still injure him. He is a proper, Red Dragon Emperor, though, since it is who he is. And he's even already at this point got Balance Breaker. Next, we have to get to what he has to deal with. He has to deal with the Riser incident. Now, in this version, when Riser appears, and Issei heard what happened, when Reese jumped in his room, he wasn't expecting the Queen of Ice to be right next to him. Right next to her. I know I said Issei was top 20, so how would he be killed by people who weren't even in the top 100? Well, it was all based off their luck. When he's fully boosted, he's top 20. When he's 0 boost, he's probably top 200. Thing is, now, Issei's easily stronger than he was before. He's at least top 20 without any boosts. So he literally kept the title of 20. So he literally looks around when Grafia got in there, she is strong. She's not top 20 strong, but she is still strong. Maybe ranked 23. At the lowest. As whenever he felt that hit, she hit him with an ice sword as a kind of deterrent, but Issei caught it, shattering it in his hand. As the Red Dragon Emperor, he had more pull than most people figured. And he knew he was, so he would be very diplomatic about this. Whenever he said, set up a meeting, and the next day, they were already having to deal with the whole thing. And when Issei met Riser, he was disgusted by this guy. Riser said, "Riser has returned to the human world." Only for Issei to say, "You may want to behave, child." "Who are you calling child, you insect? You're a mere turned devil. I'm a full-blooded phoenix." As he yells phoenix, Issei would grab him by the arm and saying, "Well, somewhat right." As he would flick him in the face, he said, "Alright, you have 2 seconds before I kill you, mortal." Issei laughs a little bit, and he goes into his Balance Breaker right off the rap. He didn't even have to pull his gear out. He says, "I am Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hayato." As you would see how much Riser's eyes would start to widen, saying, "You're the Red Dragon. No Red Dragon is matched for a phoenix." As Issei would catch his hand, saying, "You got that mistaken, boy." As Issei would throw him, saying, "You think you're strong, huh?" Issei's eyes fully opening, just for him to show the rage of a dragon. As you would see bright green in his eyes. He would look more like this. You could feel the power off of him. As he would go back, as there was no light off him anymore, as he flew towards Riser. But then he stops. He went back down into his gear. As he starts to laugh a little bit. Riser, you're not even a match for myself. What makes you think, even for a moment, you can match my entire peerage? The entire peerage here. This is when Riser starts to laugh. You see, boy, you couldn't kill me. Issei said, alright, bet. As Rias refused to be married to Riser, she would actually do the raiding game. They would be given 1 week to train. Issei sang perfect. As he would look at Kiba, who was very much fast, but not quite on his speed level. Koneko was strong, but not quite as strong as her. Now, Asya had more magic than him, but he was better in attack magic, so she could heal, but she never had much elemental abilities. Akeno and Rias were very good with magic, but next to zero power and strength and speed. As Issei would say, we need to train all of these abilities up. This is when Akeno said, why? Sorry about that. Akeno saying, why train him up? Well, because we want to get stronger. Couldn't you handle that entire period on your own? I'd love to say I could, but I couldn't. Now, I could definitely mostly handle them all, but there's a few of them that I would have to take on with full force. Now, granted, if I was going in a, 18 versus 1... Wait, is it 18? Whatever. Wait, hold on. 2 bishops, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, 2 knights. Yeah, 16. So, if I had to fight 16 characters, if I had to fight 16 of them all at once, do you really think a jumping like that would be easy to deal with? Now, I could probably handle them, yes. But it doesn't mean I want to do it all by myself. We need to train you up, all of you. As Issei would actually have a sparring match, a 2 versus 1, where both Koneko and Kiba would both come at him at once. Full speed, full swords, full attacks. Every hit was as hard as they could do, every sprint was as fast as they could go. And this is when Issei had an idea, asking if they could do weighted training, as Akeno would have to be the one to make them magically, but she was able to make magical weights all around Issei, using earth magic, of course. As it was all condensed, it was quite heavy, roughly 400 pounds. He would make, and they were the size of wrist straps, so he would put them on each wrist, each ankle. Same for Koneko and Kiba. Koneko and Kiba weren't even able to do it very well, though. Kiba was barely able to walk with these things. He wasn't able to run, and his swinging of his swords were very sloppy. Koneko could barely take steps, and her swings weren't quite as fast, though they still packed just about as much of a punch. But this meant that they were barely able to keep up in their normal speed of a human. And Issei, he was barely mobile in these either. But they had much lighter ones, like 20 pounds, on both Asya and Ravel. I mean, not Ravel, and Akeno. While Rias did mainly train her intelligence for this and strategize, it wasn't quite hard. But this is when she would check outside through the window she looked at, seeing her team come stronger and stronger each day. Issei would train in Balance Breaker and have Kiba, Koneko, and Akeno all training against him at once, with Asya healing everyone who got hurt. And most of the time, whenever they got the chance, and Issei was training without his gear, Akeno would be training Asya in elemental attacks, while Issei was going 2v1 with Koneko and Kiba. Now, keep in mind, Konako is still far more powerful than she would be in canon. So is Kiba and Issei. Even Asya is far more powerful, even Akano is slightly. They've all gotten so much stronger than they were in canon at this point. Probably that even Kiba alone could probably take on half of Rise's Peerage. So could Konako, and Asya could probably take out about a third. Akano could probably take about a fourth. Well, probably more, but like, more like four, I'm gonna say 5/8. So a little bit more than half, while Issei could still take on the whole thing, with, at this point now, breaking no sweat. Where Rias could not do this. She wasn't even strong enough to do she was maybe strong enough to do a fourth. Now, if you're wondering why everyone in her team is much stronger than her, it's because they were training all day and all night with the Red Dragon Emperor, or Issei. But Issei knew what this was going to be a battle, so he knew not to hold back. From the get-go, he yelled Balance Breaker, and every 10 seconds you heard Boost. Fun fact, in Balance Breaker, you don't have to wait the time, you can just yell Boost, 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 Boost. For like 4 minutes straight, you just heard Boost across the battlefield. There was no attacks, there was no strategy in Riser's defenses this time. He wouldn't try sending the same people. He would know the only way they could do it is if they did a total front assault. Which was his plan, everyone at once, attack. No one guarding his base, all at once. Meaning that Issei knew what the plan was. As he would look eye to eye with this guy, he said that it was always a good choice. But Rias would send them all on the same strategy she had before. So Issei had actually told her through the earcom, hey, I told you what he did, right? How he made you a frontal assault? Yes, he did it. Oh. As she would call all of her troops to go at the front, this is when Issei said, no need. As he put the ear thing in, saying, just listen for a minute as you hear boost, 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 boost. As Issei stood atop the thing, stopping his boost for a minute. So, Riser, are you ready for the fight? Oh, more than ready. One thing we didn't tell you about the Phoenix, though. What was that? We have the special move. As this giant wave of flames would overcome Issei, he would stand tall in it. As he was covered in fire, they said, well, every Phoenix knows flame and wind magic. Combining them, we can make one hell of an explosion. As you hear, now burn, you bastard. Ha 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 ha. As Issei would look dead at Riser, saying, your fire's too cold to burn me. Every step he took, you could hear rage building up. As you heard one final boost, Issei flew forward, knocking Riser's jaw almost clean off. Sure, after it got sent flying away, he regrow it, but this was one of the most bloody and gory scenes you could see. And Issei wasn't going to kill them, he was going to hurt them. When the rooks came at Issei, he sent them flying and they were out of the game. Same with most of the pawns and the bishop. Thing is, there was still Riser's sister. She wasn't out to fight. Now, they would do a Phoenix attack, which was involving full-on one of them getting injured and using all their blood while it's healing, the fire to start with a crazy blast out of it to make it even more dangerous. This flame would be comparable to the flames of the Abyss, or the incineration magic, the destruction magic of the Grimmery clan, which is rare to see. As Issei took this, it shattered some of his armor. He now had only half the top of it left. He looked them in the eyes, saying, we're actually able to break my armor. Over time it would heal in about a minute. He would say, not too much though. As you would hear, Welsh Dragon, balance, broken. As Issei would say, what's going on, Ddraig? Your balance breaker is too taxing, you cannot stay in it for too long. Well, then I better finish it quick. Then is when Issei was thinking in his head, Ddraig, I thought I didn't have much of a time limit in this thing. Thought I could go for hours, would be fine. Normally you could, but you've been boosting this whole time. Even that would put the strain on you. Alright, so what am I going to do? You're going to have to either defeat them or count on your allies. Well, luckily I've taken so many of them out already. The rest of them should be easy to take out. Well, I wouldn't say that. Why? Unless you can beat the Riser into a bloody pulp, then he won't back down. And his queen, Yubaluna, you didn't take her out. Alright, I'll see about doing that. As he flew forward, he would hit Yubaluna. This is when he would get out of his full balance breaker. It would no longer look like this. It would go like this for a mere second as it would start to fight with his more speed-like night balance breaker. Though he would wind up falling out of balance breaker completely and going just into this. As you would hear, looks like I'm out of time. May as well keep fighting. As he barely was able to defeat Yubaluna, just for her to have a phoenix tear and then put a giant explosion on his chest. As fireball after fireball, Issei would still remain standing, as Konako and Kiba would land right next to him. They would go to attack, as Akane would be above. Now the explosion Empress and the lightning and lightning priestess would start attacking each other. Every hit you'd hear it. Though there was one problem. As Rias would still be with Asya, they wouldn't expect what they would find next. Riser had a plan. He would use his full firepower just for Issei to be in the way. He blocked the attack that was aiming for Konako. As he hit the floor, you would hear Rias Grimmery, 1 pawn, or 8 pawns eliminated. As Issei looks as he hit the floor. As he said, it's up to you guys now. This would drive Kiba to go full-on batshit crazy, using even a 2-sword style, having one in his mouth, making it a 3-sword style. Now, this would make it where we had a very powerhouse of a fight. 3-sword style versus the Immortal Phoenix. And Konako was versus Ravel, though she couldn't do anything but physical attacks, while Ravel was throwing fireball after fireball. Eventually, the fireballs were able to take out Ravel. While the fireballs were able to take out Konako, you would hear Rias Grimmery, 1 rook, 1 queen eliminated, as they would all look up saying 1 queen, seeing that Yubaluna had a phoenix tear, and used her second one saying, luckily that's the last one she has. But this is when Kiba realized he was the only one left. So he had to fight 2 phoenixes and 1 queen by himself. This is when you hear, not quite, as you see this giant ball of destruction hit Riser. Almost taking him out the fight. Almost. His healing factor was running pretty low, as Yubaluna started just throwing explosion after explosion at Rias, doing a good bit of damage, as you would hear a combined attack, flaming explosions, as Ravel would combine her explosions with Rias, with Yubaluna's explosions combining with Ravel's fire. You would see the attacks hitting Rias. Though she would have Asya healing her, it would still deal damage. Until there was a explosion attack aimed at Asya, which she would counter with a fire spell of her own to send it back. While she had a lot of magic, she wasn't quite good at using attack spells, so she wasted a good bit of her energy with just one explosion, with 1 fireball. She would make 1 more as a giant flame ball would fly towards them. Riser would use his full Phoenix abilities to take the hit. As he would barely be standing afterwards, he looked eye to eye with Rias, as they would go at it just for Riser to have her plead defeat whenever he had held Asya by the neck and started hitting her burning her stomach with fire magic. Though he was doing it slowly, so it wasn't fully burning her yet. It was just painful. As the rage and Rhea, she had to give up, or else Issei could die. And if that happened, Issei would go on a rampage. So at this point, Issei would basically be seeing what happened. He was pissed at Riser. And Grafey even told Issei, "You've been given a single allowance there. Good luck." Issei would speak with Ddraig, saying, "Ddraig, give me the power I need for this. I'm gonna have to go against all of hell for this one. How much would I need? At least half of what I had. How close am I to that? You're maybe a quarter of what I had. In other words, you're halfway there. Whoa, I'm gonna get fucked up, aren't I? Yes. By the way, why'd you sing a lyric from a song? None of your business, Issei. I knew you were a fan of old music. Oh, fuck you, Issei. Whatever. What do I have to do? Sacrifice an arm. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. Here, I give you my left arm. As you would hear, accepted. As Issei would fly forward in this battle, he would meet Riser, and he would go at it, 1-to-1. Riser saw the blood in Issei's vision. You would see a balance breaker, but it wasn't the normal one. Issei with this would allow him to go into Juggernaut Drive for maybe 10 seconds. Yeah, anything past that, he would either die or it would start draining away his life energy. As Issei would yell, "I who shall awaken shall become the red dragon of domination once more. I shall bury the infinite and fret over the dream. Red dragon, Juggernaut Drive." As he would grow enormous in size, the Phoenix would see his opponent and to be terrified at this, hoping Juggernaut Drive was not all it was cracked up to be, knowing that Issei on his own would probably be more than enough to do this. But he planned to kill hell in this one strike. As he one-shot Riser was on the ground, pleading for mercy. He would have been killed if Issei didn't stop. At 10 seconds, the giant dragon slowed down, stopping its attack an inch away from this girl's face, who jumped in the way. Ravel stopped. She was terrified, but she was looking eye to eye with a dragon, the true Red Dragon Emperor of Domination, Issei Hayato, as he would stop his attack only for a moment, and yelled, "Move, little girl." As she refused to, he said, "Then have your brother forfeit." As she begged her brother to forfeit, he did, in fear, and started to beg for his life. This is when Issei would do something. He would start to lose control. He said, "Then get out of here." As he would start breathing fire out of nowhere, the kind of flames that could kill gods. As you would see the rage in his eyes. They knew not one person there would be strong enough to stop him, except for maybe one. As Ddraig took off his regular attire, showing a much more ready-to-fight sight than you would expect, he would jump into the ring with Issei. This would truly be a king versus king battle. The king of hell versus the king of dragons. This was a true fight in all senses. Issei wasn't in control, it was the red dragon. And it was only the rage. Every hit, every moment. Until the end of the fight, when they were both exhausted. When Reese grabbed Issei by the face and saying, "Issei, calm down." In tears, as Issei would try holding him. All the girls would surround him and beg him to go back to normal Issei. Even Konako. Kiba would beg Issei as his best friend. Issei would start to shrink down from his giant juggernaut form as he would hit the floor. "Guys, I think I won." As he would pass out. As Kiba would say, "You big idiot. Of course you won." This is when Sirzex would say, well, most of the way, not quite against me. This is when Reese would say, brother, are you alright? Yeah, that guy did some damage, though. You chose one hell of a pawn. As he would sit up off the ground, saying, Phoenix family, bring me 2 of your finest Phoenix tears. Being that this is still the king of hell, they had to listen. As they threw one on Issei and one on one on Issei and one on Sirzex, they would stand up. Issei barely woken up. As he would say, physically, no injuries, but I'm still exhausted. I'd recommend resting for a few days. You just use the strongest abilities in existence. The breath that can kill gods, boosting to an uncrazy level, and the Juggernaut Drive. 3 things that you should never do, but you did them all at once. Well, I am the strongest, and the truest red dragon. Alright, if you say so. This is when a few weeks later they would be dealing with their normal lives. They would go through what they need to go through and all that. In the end, they would have to deal with Kokabiel. The Kokabiel fight would go pretty similar to canon, except for one thing. The build-up was pretty much the same exact thing, but the actual execution was different. Everyone there was so much stronger, except for the, church girl, Zenobia. In this version, the second Issei saw Kokabiel, he was ready to fight. He didn't even need Juggernaut Drive for this one. He didn't even need to yell Balance Breaker. He just ran up on him in only one gauntlet and punched the dog shit out of Kokabiel. Kokabiel with blood on his mouth, blood on his face, everything. He was pissed. He went to swing at Issei just for his light spear to break on contact. Looking down, that was a partial armament. It was like he used the Balance Breaker at will at this point, as if it was part of his skin. Looking down, you'd see a plate of the armor that would vanish after it bounced off. After the spear bounced off, as Issei would yell, Balance Breaker. Absolutely beating the hell out of Kokabiel. Only for the White Dragon Emperor, Wally, to come in and straight up slam Kokabiel to the ground. As you hear, my rival, it's good to see you. Maybe we should go out right here. Issei saying, sounds like a good idea. I wanted a proper fight. They would look each other dead in the eyes and saying, maybe later. His Balance Breaker and Juggernaut Drive would work, but he didn't use them. Volley thinking he was the higher one of the 2 of them, not knowing that Issei was already at Balance Break, was already almost able to go to Juggernaut Drive at will, while he was barely even able to go into it. A little bit later, they would go through their normal lives. They would have to go into the fight against, that one guy who kidnapped Asia. Well, that's going pretty much a lot ahead. Well, let's go to where we need to be. They go down to Hell to visit, meeting everyone, doing the whole thing. But first, they had to go to that whole meeting, and they would meet Volley still. And Irina was in the, church area. She joined the angels. Issei looked eye to eye with Michael and said, hello, Michael. Michael then proceeds to grab something for Issei. The Dragon Slayer sword. Issei looks at him dead in the eyes and clenches his knuckles, using Balance Breaker in an instant, saying, what's that supposed to be? Only for him to hear a gift. He wouldn't let his guard down, but he would be given the blade. He picked it up, and he assimilated it with Ddraig. His eyes started to show great power, as Ascalon was now his. Issei was more than ready for this, though. Now, whenever Volley and the whole thing would happen, which he's still trained to Gasper, they were terrified when Issei walked in a fight like that. Now, this is when we have to go into the underworld moment. When they went into the underworld, everything happened like normal. Training with the Storm Dragon, training with the Black Meteor Dragon, Same thing happened. Although in this version, Issei, who had already had balance break, was training in Juggernaut Drive. So he was fighting as himself, but in a giant dragon form. At this point, Issei was becoming less machine dragon, where he was less metal dragon look of it, and more of a real dragon. So much so that he even started to develop more dragonic features in his regular body. He gained more muscle, he was taller, he even started to look more dragonic in his eyes. Now, he wasn't exactly a full dragon, so he wasn't going to look perfect, but he was more than he was in canon. Over time, Issei and Ddraig stopped having to talk with each other, at one point even wondering where each other went. This is when they realized their minds were becoming too similar to matter. They were starting to become one. As Issei one day would see that something was going wrong, he would notice a giant crack on the gemstone. He would ask Sir Zex if he knew anything about it. He would turn him to Ijuka. Ijuka knew nothing about it. He would turn him to Azazel. Azazel would say there's a chance that the dragon was fusing with him, and this is when he pulled out a few of his own that were very cracked and everything, saying, "They would have almost fused with me too, but I decided not to. You, on the other hand, may not. You may want to fuse with your dragon." He said, "Yeah, a little bit. Why?" "Well, good luck." As Issei would look in the eyes of the dragon and say, "Ddraig, do you want to fuse?" "Yes, I do." As Issei would take his hand, he would armor it up for a second, and as he said had to get Aussie in there. The entire group was there. Issei knuckled up and punched his gauntlet as full as power as he could, shattering the gemstone. As you would see it start to surround him. You would hear loud groans of pain. Issei starting to grasp at his left arm, which was clear dragon at this point. As his clothes started to rip, his size was increasing. He became a giant red dragon. As he said, "I am Red Dragon of Domination, Ddraig. But I am also Issei Hayato." As his eyes were a mix of a brownish green hue, as he would look eye to eye, he would look down at everyone. He would go back to human form, though with this version having somehow more dragonic features. Some scales on his shoulders, this bright, green aura around, this bright red aura around him, and he was as strong as the original Ddraig. At this point, he knew he was the real Red Dragon Emperor. He was Ddraig. Though he said, "I have to go talk with an old friend." "Tannen!" "Yes, Issei." "It's not just Issei now." As he would go into his Red Dragon form, he said, "It is Ddraig." "Ddraig, what are you doing here? How are you out of your gauntlet? And how are you taking over Issei's body?" This is when he said, "I'm not. Me and Issei are one." "So you fused with the boy?" "Yes." That means the Red Dragon Emperor gauntlet, as he pulled it off, was nothing more than a toy at this point. As he would still carry it around, saying, "It is still the gauntlet I had. It was my prison for years, though." As Issei would look eye to eye with Tannen, saying, I have to go visit Great Red. Is he still in the dimensional gap? Tannen saying, "For all I know, he is." Good. Issei would roar with enough power to open up a void tear in the dimensional gap as he would fly in. You hear, "Great Red!" as Red would turn his eyes right towards Issei, saying, "Who are you? I thought Ddraig was sealed long ago." "I've escaped, brother." "It has been a long time, hasn't it?" "Yes." As they would fly towards each other, embracing as brothers would. Issei looking at him. as you would hear Ophis yelling, "What are you two doing?" As Issei would look at Ophis and see Volley next to her, he would fly up and land right in front of Volley in the true Red Dragon form. Volley would back up and stay behind Ophis. As you would see Issei's eyes open as he sat down into his human form with more of his own appearance. As he would look at them. "Hello, it's been a long time, Volley. Issei, you're a dragon now? I'm the Red Dragon Ddraig. Me and him fused. You could try it with Albion if you two are that much alike. I may do that. What's going to happen in my body, though?" Well, as his features started to go more dragonic, he said, "You'll look more like this afterwards. Though less red. I can see," as Issei took his shirt off to show all the red scales all over his body, and the runes that were toning him. Even when he flexed, you could see on his chest there was this dragonic symbol. As you could tell, this was on every dragon had their own simple one. They could always make it glow if they wanted to. Issei claimed to be the strongest, and it was true. As he would challenge Volley to a match. 1 versus 1. Winner took all. They wouldn't kill each other, but they would see who was the strongest. Volley would go all the way up into Juggernaut Drive trying to beat Issei, just for Issei to easily outclass him in every way. In the end, he stood above Volley, saying, "You're done. I'm sorry, kid, you're done." As Issei would pat Volley's head, saying, "You are closer than you know to it. Train with Ophis on how to master your dragon, and you will win. Don't master it as if it's a beast under your control. Master it as if it is you. Good luck, Volley." As Issei would fly away, saying goodbye to his brother, his family, everything, going back to his new one. As he would land, they would see the mighty power of Issei. As his head would bow for Rias, and she would step onto it and even start to mount Issei. As he would fly with her on his back, with the rest of the group all flying with their own wings. But this is when Issei said something. "Everyone come to me." As they would land, Issei would say how he's now got a role to do. He is the Dragon of Domination. They would understand, and they would let him go his own path. Issei, as a gift, would take the Dragon Slayer sword and said, "Here, take the blade, Kiba. You'll need it more than I will." "But why, Issei?" "Because become as strong as you can. I will challenge you in 2 years' time. The entire peerage." They accepted this challenge. Issei still went to school, but not quite as much. Alright, back to what we were doing, guys. So, he would say, "You have 2 years' time. Good luck, my friends." He would still go to school, do all his things, but he would feel more meaningless. As he would go meet people after people, no one ever wanted something true. Until he met a boy. This young child, he could tell was strong. But it wasn't a young child, it was a high school boy. Around his age. Named King. As he would meet King, saying, "What is it you wish, boy?" "I wish to become a dragon." "Huh, strange dream. Come with me." And this kid was like loaded rich. In his backyard was mountainous, like you could tell there was enough space for a full-on dragon to live. Issei would say, "If you want to be dragoness like me," turning into one, saying, "I thought you were a demon." "I am, but I'm also the Red Dragon of Domination, Ddraig. Now, you wish to be a dragon, then join my faction. giving him the mark of a dragon, he could become one, but it would be very difficult for him at first. It would take him at least 10 tries to even become close to a dragon, 20 to become good at it. As he would say, "How do I do this? Train with me. Become a true dragon. Though you will be more like a smaller me than you will be anything else until you've become your own dragon." And over the 2 years, he would train with this boy. And Issei would show how much stronger he was. Over the years, he would become quite powerful. After the 2 years, the boy would walk with him to the Occult Research Club. At this point, Rias is far out of there and a demon in high society. While Issei did now have a son, it would be with Rias, and one with Akano, one with Zenobia, one with Konako, even one with Asya, and even one with Ravel. Surprisingly enough, at the end of this, they would see something. Issei and Kiba would both go at each other. Glowing in his eyes, you would see a suit of armor surround him. He said, "I, who shall awaken, shall become the blade of the gods once more. The ability to smite my enemies and absolutely overwhelm my opponents. Who is the strongest? Absolute. Juggernaut Drive." What? Sword style. As they would look at him, noticing that his body was now covered in armor. Stronger. It was larger. And he had hands. It was almost like a beast. Every time he would attack, Issei would try to block it, but he couldn't block every one. He would no longer wield weapons. He was the weapon. Every second he swung, another would hit him. Until they would both end up on the ground, until Issei stood up first. He said, "Kiba, you've gotten stronger, my friend. I don't think I could handle all of you at once," as Konako would show her full power now, being a Four Tails. As her ears would start to really show, her strength was too. And if you're wondering why I never mentioned the fight with Loki or anything, because when they found out who Issei was, they would always bow down. They were too scared to fight. And this is the end of it. That was my one shot. If y'all want to see the full version, then ask for it. Later, guys. Slick out.